serving you a dose of wisdom and humor with a dash of radiance. Welcome to Biscuits and Sunshine with your hosts, Callie and Landra.
Hey, y'all. Pull up a seat at our table for your next serving of Biscuits and Sunshine. I'm Callie.
And I'm Landra. It makes me hella happy to have you here with us. We're recording this from Distance 4 Audio Studios in Athens, Greece. Welcome to episode 15, Deca Pende. Bame. Let's go.
We are so excited for this episode of Biscuits and Sunshine. First, I want to say 15 episodes. Wow.
Amazing.
Really exciting. Even more exciting today because we've chosen to bring on our very first guest to speak about this topic. Today, we're talking about multi-generational wisdom, and we have with us today our very good friend, Olivia Sweeney. Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you for having me.
We're so happy you're here. Olivia is an entrepreneur, a creative, and is currently working on her first novel. She's Irish-Australian, born in England but raised in Singapore. Currently, she's living in Athens, so she's truly a citizen of the world. We're so happy you're here.
Truly, it's so exciting to have you with us.
I am so happy to be here. As an avid listener and friends of Biscuits and Sunshine, it makes me so excited to be your first guest.
Well, and you've been with us from the very beginning when we talked about doing this. You've helped with some of our social media and some of our filming, so it just kind of makes sense that you are our first guest.
And it makes a lot of sense for today's topic because we each, at our current moment in life, represent a different decade and a different place along the journey of womanhood and living in the world. And so we felt like it would be really great to bring in an additional voice to add experience and color and wisdom to this conversation. So with that, I think, Landra, maybe you'll take our first question. Tell me a little bit about where you are right now in your life.
Yeah, well, guys, I am on the front porch of the big 5-0. And the countdown has begun. I'm 5 months out from 50. It's kind of weird to say it out loud. I'm always like turning over my shoulder going, wait, who? And yeah, that's me. Yeah, and I've always been somebody, every time I hit a different decade in life, I've never been like, I'm so depressed. Like some people can feel that way. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I reached this milestone. Like, let's go.
I always tell my mom, like, the alternative to getting older is way worse. You just don't.
Yeah.
It's a blessing.
It is a blessing.
To get older. It's a blessing.
Spoken by the youngest in the group.
I love it. It's true.
So, Olivia, where are you right now in your life?
So I'm 29. I am 30 in a couple of weeks. I am on a new adventure. I'm living in Athens for the second time in the last few years. I am engaged to the love of my life. We're getting married next year. I am writing my first novel, which is so exciting for me. It's something that I've wanted to do for the longest time. And if not now, when, right? And I feel like truly motivated and passionate to just, let's do it. I'm ready to grab 30 by the balls and enter it as my best self.
Oh, I love that.
Me too.
Can't you see why she makes such a good guest for us? So in being 29 and in being 49, there are lessons that you've learned along the way, unique to your own experiences and where you are in life. Each of you, whoever wants to answer first, what is one thing today that you've learned recently or over the past decade that you're like, oh, I'm really glad that I had that experience and that I was able to take that insight? For example, for me, I have learned in my 30s to be more true to myself than ever before. It's like I care so much less about what people think. And so I feel like I've given myself the permission to be truly who I am. Even though I keep sort of finding along this path that I'm questioning who I am. I'm discovering who I am, and I'm still learning who I am.
For me, I think the understanding that things can change, things can go in a completely different direction than you had anticipated, and it's not a failure. Just because something didn't work doesn't mean that you failed at it. You can change career paths, you can change countries, you can change yourself things move, things change, and that doesn't mean that you failed at something.
What a good lesson to learn in your 20s.
I was just going to say, I am like, wow, Olivia, I'm so blown away by that wisdom because I feel like probably somewhere in my 40s, I finally came across that lesson and like really realized it. Wow. Amazing.
I remember listening to a talk when I was still living in Atlanta, and the speaker said, fear tells you that forfeit is better than failure. And that really resonated with me. But it wasn't something that I learned until, like, I heard it, but it didn't really sink into me until I was older, that failure wasn't the end of the road. It was just a place to stop, a place to rest, a place to reevaluate and move forward from.
It's so interesting, right? I mean, there are certain things, different points in life that we could actually take those lessons and go, oh, sometimes we could just hear it, we could see it in somebody else and go, okay, got it. And other times we're like, oh, yeah, but then we didn't really get it. So we have to have an experience of it to get it.
You just said this to me this week about being a mirror, because it's so hard for us to hear our own advice. And that's why we cultivate friends who can mirror back to us either what we would say to ourselves or mirror something in us that they see that maybe we don't see.
Yeah, very true.
Mm-hmm.
I think the lesson that I've learned is when I was younger was a lot of like thinking things are just black and white and realizing that there's so much gray and contradictions can also exist. So two things can be opposing and also true at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's one that I think is a lesson that I'm like, right. And I think what also comes with that is in learning to soften and to be a little bit less judgmental as time goes on, because we know things just aren't right or wrong, black, white.
There are, in fact, way more than 50 shades of gray. So if you were to go back to your 20s, if you were to go back to your 30s, if you were to go back to your teens, what is a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self? I would tell my younger self to stop taking things so seriously. That one decision does not determine your life.
Yes. Yes.
I remember struggling so much with that in my 20s, having conversation after conversation with my mom about, well, I don't know what my next 5 years look like. And she would say to me, you don't have to have the next 5 years figured out. But for some reason, I felt like whatever decision was right in front of me, that was it. It was the only decision I would ever get to make again. And whatever I chose, that was it. Like you said, things change.
Yeah.
I would make sure younger Callie absolutely knew that change was a constant.
I think I'd probably say to my younger self, like going into university, trust yourself. Trust yourself. Listen to yourself. Listen to your body. Listen to yourself. Listen to your mind. You probably know what you want to do. Just trust yourself. Don't let other people necessarily impact every single decision that you want to make. You know what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that resonates with me for sure. Like, you got this. And like you said, also listening to the wisdom I heard, I kind of took away, not just what you're hearing in your mind, but also what your body is saying. It's like that intuition that I think a lot of times we can override, or maybe we haven't been taught to tap into it. That really resonates for me. And I think the other thing I would say is have more fun. Don't be so serious. Like, I don't know, I came blazing out of university into like manager Landra and just worked a lot, you know, especially when my personal life didn't go so well. I kept getting promoted because I was working a lot and I'm really good at what I did. And there are some benefits though that came out of it that are really, you know, got me to who I am today. So I wouldn't change any of that. But I'd say, girl, go have more fun.
I remember I had an ex who said, like, we are the sum of our experiences, but that isn't who we are. And if you were to change one thing, you wouldn't be the Landra that was sitting in front of us today.
That's right.
If you know, in some ways maybe had less trust in yourself at uni, you wouldn't have gone through the experiences and it wouldn't have led you to where you are at 29. I know there are experiences in my life that maybe I wish I hadn't had, some things that I wish I didn't have to go through, but I think it has helped me cultivate such a sense of empathy for people in situations that I thought I'd never find myself in. And do I wish it hadn't happened? Yes. But am I grateful for the lesson it taught me? Yes. I can take that. You know, I did a conversation with Callie about when you lose in life, don't lose the lesson.
Mm.
I believe that. I really do. And so I think for me, looking back on my varied 37 years, it's been a great ride so far, full of ups and downs.
But you wouldn't change a thing.
No, not really.
No, I don't think I would either.
Yeah, same. I'm on the same page there.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I like how the advice to our younger selves is really like, chill out and trust yourself.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
It's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay.
Yeah. Who is it that says everything is figure outable?
Yes.
As an author, I can't think of who she is.
And the other thing, as I say, is everything is recoverable.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking like, oh my God, I've made a mistake that I can't come back from. Like, you absolutely can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I love one of my mentors. She always says, it's like a take two.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Olivia? What do you think helped you learn to trust yourself?
I probably started trusting myself at about 25, 26, when I had come out of a stage in my life that I felt like I was stuck and I didn't necessarily know how to come out of it. And I feel like I came out of that situation and I entered this new chapter on my terms.
And was this after university?
This was probably around 25, 26 when I had been in a relationship for 3 years that wasn't good for me. It wasn't conducive to the type of person that I wanted to be, and I felt very stuck in that way. And I feel like after I came out of that, really when I moved to Greece then the first time by myself after only having been here once for 3 days, I feel like I came into the trust of myself. I understood that when you make change and you go with exactly what it is you want to do, change will come, good things will come. And I think that was the first time I really started to live for myself. Trust myself. Yes, see, this is what happens when you trust yourself. You knew you could do it and you did it. You know, you knew you could make a change in your life and you're making a change. And from that, good things came into my life. I think when I really started to trust myself, good things happened.
As someone who had made international moves prior to living in Greece, what do you think was the secret that enabled you to start trusting yourself when you moved to Greece? How was the move to Greece different from the moves that you had made in your past?
The moves in my past, I mean, we moved to Singapore when I was when I was 10 years old. But the move to Australia was for my university. The move to London was for a job. The move to Greece, that was for me. And I feel like that's the real difference in my moves is I moved to Greece for my soul, for my happiness, for I moved here for me.
I have chills right now, and I'm looking at Olivia, and she's just glowing and a big smile, and her hands are expressive. And also, I think it's exactly what you said, but just said a different way, is you chose yourself. You chose your own happiness.
Why is it, do you think, that women have such an issue or such a problem choosing themselves? Because I think I look at us, I know myself, and I think we are all very wise, very smart, accomplished, beautiful, bright women. And yet, I know personally, choosing myself is sometimes the hardest thing to do. Why is that?
Well, it's interesting. As Olivia is speaking, I've, multiple times before talked about my time in Argentina, and that feels like somewhat similar to kind of hearing that, choosing myself on my own terms, making that, going somewhere new and just figuring it out. And then like, wow, all these wonderful things start to come to you. And I think, it had to do with maybe what I grew up in, like this people pleasing, take care of other people. It just didn't, there wasn't a lot of like nurturance around like me first. And that was actually, it has been such a journey of learning to choose myself first and knowing that it's actually not selfish. It's like the most powerful thing I can do because everybody else around me and in my sphere, it teaches other women to do just that. But also how I show up is so much more powerful because I've chosen myself. So I think there's like, I talk about like kind of my own like family influences, but it's also the world, women, that's exactly what we're kind of almost like, expected to be. Like take care of other people, be good, and so I think it's an unlearning is what my experience has been.
I feel like the world tries to direct our nurturing nature specifically to children. And there isn't a narrative out there that says, okay, as a woman, if you choose not to have kids, that nurturing can be given to other women. Like that nurturing is still so valuable. That determination to bring others with you instead of leave them behind, I think is uniquely feminine. And I think that's a message that when I think about my nieces and nephews and my friends' kids, that's something that I want young girls to take with them, is that your nature is wonderful. And however you choose to direct that is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. It's like a rising tide lifts all boats, right? If that rising tide is self-care, if women start to care more for themselves, they support themselves more, then they can give more to others, give more to work, give more to children, give more to friends, give more to community.
That's right.
You can't pour from an empty cup. Speaking of community, how have you seen intergenerational relationships in your life? Mothers, grandmothers, sisters, friends. Is that something that you saw growing up a lot?
Yes. So I come from a very large family. My mom's the youngest of 10, and there were 5 women and 5 men. So always around lots of aunts and uncles. And my grandmother had my mom at 40. So there's a big range of like ages in my family. So truly I am the middle child. And I say that because my grandfathers I never knew. My grandmothers were around me. One of them passed when I was 7, so I didn't have a lot of grandma time with her. But my aunts were always definitely an influence. And, these were women that grew up in, 30s, born in the 30s on. So they are like, they were just, how do I say it? They were like really, they've seen it all. They were women that were not just homemakers. They were out working at a time when it was a little rebellious for women to be in the workplace. They also, I think, sadly, had some not so great relationships with men. And so I had a really strong, like I would say, independence really pushed on me of like, you don't need a man, you be a strong woman, you do it all. And mind you all, I was born in 75 on the heels of the big women's movement in America and around the world, I'm sure. Credit cards, women just got the ability to open their own credit cards the year I was born.
That's wild to me.
And right, so there was like all of that. So I think there was always a lot of wisdom learning from them. And then I would also say in the workplace, as time went on, I switched careers and I ended up working for Lululemon in my 30s. And all of a sudden I was like, wow, this is so funny. How did I become the old person at work? Because we, our demographic, the people we were hiring were, coming right out of college. And I have so many friendships of people of multiple generations. And I just see such wisdom and value in having people from different generations. So I love it. I literally think my friends span from like 20s to like 60s.
I love that, Landra. And I feel like you and I come from cultures where multiple generations tend to stay close together. When I think of Greek culture, I think of yaya and papu, like mom and dad, and then kids living like on the different floors in one building. Olivia, you had a much different experience growing up because your family was sort of spread out all over the world.
Yeah.
How did you see intergenerational relationships growing up?
Yeah, I guess it was a little bit harder because my family's really spread across the world. My mum's side is Australian, my dad's side is Irish. but really living everywhere, London, Bali, they're really spread out. So we kind of only had my family, right? We were a really close-knit family of 5. And then we have my mum's sister, who we're very, very close to. And then my mother's mother geographically became closer because we lived closer. But yeah, there was a whole side of my family that I never really got to know. I never really got to experience those customs and traditions that you have with the whole family. I think that when I talk about the close little family of 5, that's something that I have really, really strong family values because of the Sweeneys, because of our family unit of 5 that I think have carried through with me. For example, I look at my parents. I've always admired my parents' relationship. I've admired the way that they have built something and grown together and consistently communicated as their life has changed what it is that they need from each other. And I think that they've been 2 people that I've looked at now that I'm in my own relationship and I'm getting married, and that's the next chapter for me, is where they went wrong, where they went right. I think that was probably my closest generational family experience, was just my parents.
Can your parents be guests too and give us insight on how to stay flirty and cheeky into a multi-decade marriage?
As my dad says, my mom is always the hottest woman in the room.
Aw. Your parents are great.
Yeah.
Your parents are great.
They're playful, they're fun, they've experienced life together from very young, and they've stayed a strong unit, and I admire that. And I guess with my friends, I've never met somebody and asked, so how old are you? You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't feel like that's the first thing that I've ever asked. I mean, just today, asking, how old is Chelsea? We've been friends for a while now, and I still don't know. It's just not something I've thought about because, we are all very different age-wise. But has that ever changed anything about our friendship? No, it hasn't.
No, if anything, it's just like, oh, wow, just like a revelation, but it doesn't really change anything.
Okay, Miss, I'm knocking on the door of 50, and I have to keep reminding myself, Landra's what age?
Right,
She's not 35? What? How is that possible?
When you said it was Landra's birthday, I said, she's turning 40? You said, she's turning 50. I'm not even joking.
Right. Yeah.
It's great too, because I feel like I learned so much from both of you, regardless of what your age is. And then I look at you, Olivia, and I think, damn, if I had had it together like she did at 29, like, man, I know we all walk our own paths.
Yeah.
But I look at you and I have such excitement for your life because you're so far ahead of where I was at 29. And I'm just like, oh, I can't wait what comes next. I can't wait to see your life unfold. And then, Landra, for you, I get so excited because I feel like you bring such wisdom and stability to everything.
Thank you.
I love to see how you're going to use that into this next decade of life and how you're going to continue to grow and develop these incredible skills and gifts that you have.
Me too.
Correct. You live with such joy and excitement and tenacity, and you're just a wonderful person.
Oh, thank you.
Both of you are. You say you look at me. I look at you both, and I admire the hell out of you. Really, everything you've both achieved, everything you've worked towards. I mean, Callie, you are the hardest working person I know. You really are.
Mm-hmm.
You have so many ideas, and you're going to smash each and every one of them.
Thank you. Always nice to hear that.
Oh, so sweet, Olivia. Thank you.
Speaking of looking at each other, looking back on the experiences that you've already had, what's one milestone that you feel like really shaped you?
For me, I've mentioned this a few times. My dad getting sick, of course, was not like a pleasant thing, but it also shaped me because this man, my dad, at this time when I was 19, had such a will to live. and modern medicine pulled some miracles. And there were just different things that he was really into. He was the guy that was like, yeah, I'll go to a support group. I'll talk, with people. Like, I will try experimental treatments. I will do meditation. It really impacted me living with more consciousness and awareness and being more in choice. And then also the side of me that really grew spiritually. That was a huge piece that really influenced me.
A milestone for me would have been in 2018 when I went into hospital for kidney failure, which was crazy. A crazy experience that I never saw myself going through. Took a lot of strength, and after I had been in hospital for so long and I had to put my whole life on hold, everything was on hold to focus on my health. And I came through it, but I remember sitting in my hospital bed. It was the last week that I was in that hospital. And I just felt like this had just taken everything from me, This had just put my life on hold, and I was not going to let it put my life on hold anymore. But what it did give me is a lot of time to think about what my next steps were going to be. And I started applying while I was in hospital, for part-time jobs. And I came up with a plan that I would get a part-time job on something that was going to pay me full-time. How I thought I was going to find that. Well, I did. I found it.
Wow.
Put your mind to it.
Watch company that let me come in and they paid me full-time, and I worked 3 days a week. I applied for drama school part-time. I got into drama school, and I really decided that I was going to start making choices for me. I wasn't going to do a job because everyone told me, oh, you should go into PR because you love PR, or you should do marketing. You'd be great at marketing. No, I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to go to drama school. I hadn't been able to go to drama school for university because I was the first to go to university in my family. And again, no regrets with that. But I decided I was going to start making choices for me. And I put myself through drama school. I worked 3 jobs during that time to put myself through drama school. And I felt like that was the real start of recognizing that passion is power, that I can be a creative and I can be a successful creative. And I can go against the grain. And if I do it myself, I felt like doing it myself, and I didn't ask anyone for help. I didn't ask anyone for financial help or time. I didn't ask anyone for anything. And I felt like there was so much power in that. So I think that was the real start of me recognizing that this journey is long and windy and things are going to go wrong. But if you have your health and you have that fire, that passion, you can do anything you set your mind to.
That's how I know Olivia is going to be just fine. Health and passion.
There is an American novelist born in Alabama. She's also a civil rights advocate. Zora Neale Hurston.
Mm-hmm.
She has this amazing quote, and she says, there are 2 things everybody has to learn about for themselves: love and living. Love, she says, is like the sea, so it's different on every shore. And she says about living, there are years that ask questions and there are years that answer. I feel like seeing it through that perspective, you had answer years in the story you just talked about.
Yeah.
That was an answer year.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that it's not an answer moment. Sometimes it takes time. And we have to give ourselves permission to experience that in order to get the answers.
I think experiencing my body failing on me so young really changed my mindset in terms of health too. Because if you don't have the health of your body, then you don't have anything. So I think going through something like that so young has set me up in a positive way for the rest of my life in viewing my health as wealth. My body is so important. My mind is so important. Because without that, you can't you can't do anything that you want to do.
Yeah.
It's very true. So we've looked back at milestones. Like, let's look forward. What are some of the things that you're really excited to experience in life?
I'm excited to be a mother. That's something that just gives me butterflies. I can't wait. I can't wait for the moment that I hold my baby. I'm just, being a mother for me is something that I'm really, really excited for. I don't know when that will be, but I know that will be. I know I'll be a mother. And so that's something that I really look forward to. I do.
I love it. I can't wait to be an auntie to your little ones.
I love Thursdays. It's a phrase that we have coined about like living a life that is authentic to who you are. And it can be a random Thursday and you're doing the things that you love. Because Olivia and I, one Thursday, found ourselves driving through these vineyards near the Athens airport trying to get to IKEA. We're blaring Mamma Mia and we're waving at the workers in the field. And it became I love Thursdays. It's true, though. You're going to be a great mom.
For me, literally, I'm like, what is that milestone? I think in my life, every birthday, every decade, I've been like such a vision setting person, goal setting person. And honestly, right now, I just think it's about, I've made some big moves just to be here and to create this life that has come to be. I think it's just soaking it in. I mean, still continuing to do my work, but yeah, I think it'll come, but it's not like something I'm that focused on right now.
How about you, Callie?
For me, milestones that I look forward to, being a mother, finding a partner, being married, but also having the courage, finding the opportunity to tell my story. I don't think it's the story per se of me. It could be. I could be a famous memoir writer one day. But it's telling a story through my eyes, through my voice, because writing has been one of the things that I've done my whole life, ever since I learned how to write. I have such vivid memories of sitting in my dad's office, one key at a time, typing on his little computer about Spot was a dog. This dog needed a home. But I've always had a voice. And so figuring out how to use my voice, that's my next milestone, I think. It's inevitable that you face challenges in life. What has been a challenge or a transition that you faced that was difficult? And how did you sort of work through that yourself?
A challenge that I'm in the process of facing is moving to a country that I never saw myself living in, that I have no idea what it's like, that I'm a little afraid of. You know, I've grown up in Asia, I've grown up in Australia, Europe. I've never done America.
Pew pew!
Yeehaw! In this interesting time.
Yeah.
And I think it's a challenge. It's a real challenge for me. I'm tossing and turning between, obviously I'm excited. It's a new experience. But it's so daunting. It's scary. It's scary to have to start again. And I know we talk about positive change, and change, I also believe change is never a bad thing. But sometimes you're just like, gosh darn.
Yeah.
I got to do it again.
Yeah.
I got to pack up and leave again. I got to make new friends again.
It does also sort of get to this point you made earlier about like the milestone of being a mother, this milestone that you will create family, this milestone that you have a partner. These sorts of transitions and challenges come with building a life.
Yeah.
And building a big life.
Yeah.
You know, that remembering, we could all remind ourselves we choose it, but it also is like, doesn't come with all the rainbows and the sunshine always. So it's like, right, it's the full package.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. And you're going to have your own experience. I know it's easy sometimes, right, to kind of people give you their opinions, you read something in media, right? But also hold that space for, and I'm sure you are, like that you're going to have your true experience of whatever it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm definitely just going with the flow. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going with the flow. But yeah, it's definitely coming with its challenges, mostly in my mind. Mostly I'm battling with myself in my head.
Yeah.
Which are sometimes the hardest battles to fight.
Yeah.
You remind me of something you said earlier, like passion is power. You are passionate about your partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know? And so like this transition, you're still in a position of power because the two of you are so strong and you are so in love and so passionate about his success and his growth.
Yeah, that's very true. We're teammates, right? So,
Aw.
yeah.
You guys are adorable.
I don't want to leave you guys.
We work too hard to build these friendships. You can't go. It just stretches us to be more global.
Yeah, it's not forever.
A hop, skip, and a jump away.
Yeah, no problem. No big. On our last episode of Biscuits and Sunshine, we talked about vulnerability. And this is something that I feel like has sort of been very top of mind for me. And I have felt very raw the last few months with emotion right under the surface and being sort of unable to escape the lesson that I'm learning. And so for me, navigating this time of transition and like trying to find the new path that I know I'm going to walk has been difficult. Both of you have sort of, like, you've let me bend your ear multiple times for hours, sometimes full of laughs, sometimes full of tears, just about sort of where I am in my life. And one of the things that I have done recently is gone back to see a therapist. And to me, that has been such a critical tool in navigating this time because it isn't something that I do consistently, but I have realized that I can dip into therapy when I need someone to give me extra guidance, ask me questions and hold space for me that has an educational background in something that's going to help me understand myself. And every time I've done this, for a few months already, I did it for 4 sessions last year. It, to me, is such a great way to work through times of transition, especially when the transition isn't something like moving country. I mean, difficulty comes with transition no matter what, but the things that I feel like I'm going through now are very internal. And so you look at me and you're like, oh, she's like living her best life. I am, absolutely. But still waters run very deep and I've got a lot. Mm-hmm. It's like that analogy of the duck that's like gliding really smoothly along the surface. But those little feet are just working underneath and they're just turning up all this stuff. So I feel like for me, transition, I've learned a tool can be therapy. Dip in when I need it and then go about my life. Mm-hmm. And it's always there in case I want to go back.
Yeah, that resonates. Therapy has been so helpful. And it is around those transitional moments because it's just like you need support to navigate. And that's probably another tool that I would tell anybody, university and beyond. And now we've had more conversation around mental health that did not exist, when I was in my 20s, and I wish it did. But here we are. But yeah, that's a fantastic tool. Absolutely. I think for me that I'm thinking about the challenges is actually kind of a little bit on that like theme of moving abroad, having come from that big family. I used to organize family reunions and was instrumental in like the Facebook page and trying to bring generations together. And when I left, I was really clear that it was time to kind of pass the torch, and also knowing that actually meant that maybe somebody might not be there to pick up the torch. And we haven't had a family reunion since, but yeah, it is hard to be like, how will I still maintain those relationships being so far away? And the other thing of like aging parents. And I've had my younger cousins that have married people from other countries, still living in the US, like their partners have immigrated, and asking me those questions like, how did you do it? How did you move away from your parents? And it's interesting. I think, life has taught me about not only choosing me, but then, there's no guarantees in anything. But it doesn't say that it isn't a challenge. You just figure it out. So I'm sure my parents never had imagined having Zoom calls every week with their daughter. we just make it work, right? But it definitely, it's just those moments that you miss out on the day to day. They can feel like a challenge.
Very rarely in life is any decision pain-free. You just have to choose what pain you're willing to experience.
Yeah.
And it's remembering sometimes it's just a moment of pain.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just that moment of pain or challenge or whatever it is. On the most part, change is always good.
As we start to wrap up this episode of Biscuits and Sunshine, what do you think about legacy and what you want to leave behind? Not necessarily when you pass on, but as you leave friendship or as you leave communities or as you just grow in life and transition through change, what's the legacy you want to leave behind?
My greatest strength is that I lead with kindness. That's something that's always been really important to me, that I have led with kindness in everything that I do. And so I think, let's even say as small as when I leave this room, that I've left behind kindness, that I've brightened your day in a positive manner, that I've just made your day a little bit better, that I've helped you in some way, that I've been my authentic, kind self. That's really what I aim to leave behind. I think that too often people are not kind, and we don't have enough kindness. And so if the only thing that I can be is kind, and I think that that's a wonderful thing.
You're quite successful at this, might I add.
And that's why you're a friend,
right?
I think it's a combination of inspiration for people to feel that their dreams are possible. It doesn't need to look like the way my life has looked, but whatever it is for you. So it's like that, holding space for people, making sure they feel kindness directed towards them, compassion, and that they feel like anything is possible for them.
You absolutely hold space for people, Landra.
100%.
Like, really.
I was just thinking that.
Around you, I feel seen. Even if I'm sitting with a group of 30 people, you make people feel seen. And I think that's a superpower.
Thank you.
When I think of legacy, when I think about leaving behind something, I always think about leaving it behind to my oldest niece. Don't know why she's always the one that pops into my mind, but I think she's the one that I've had the most time with. And I read something very interesting recently. It was a quote by somebody somewhere on the internet, a Callie special. It said, "Sometimes I am the sun, sometimes I am the moon, but I am always a light." And I started to think, the moon does not create its own light. The moon is a reflection of the sun. I'm really comfortable in being the moon in situations because I love to reflect the light of my friends. I love to be someone who can amplify the kindness, amplify the ability to hold space. I love to love my friends. That to me feels like amplification and reflection. I'm less comfortable stepping into the sunspot, but I know that I have light within me. And so when I think of legacy, I think of somehow letting my niece know that whatever her authentic light is, it should shine brightly.
Oh, she's the first one to make you auntie.
I love her so much.
Oh.
That's what I think of legacy.
Sweetheart.
That's who I want to leave it to.
Yeah. And all the littles. I like that.
All the young girls.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's just a stand-in for any.
Yeah.
Yeah. The poster child.
Yeah. Oh, my sweet poster child.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also, I was just going to say, there's something about the feminine, I think, in my life. I've done a lot of work to really embrace that. It's no surprise. We've all been steeped in the patriarchy, and a lot of kind of drive and things that are programmed into me were like kind of masculine aspects. And a couple of years ago, I really put a stake in the ground with my business. I'm like, I want to work with women. And I think I was afraid to say that in the sense of like, oh, then it leaves out a bunch of other people. And that like, but it's not like this, I'm a man hater. Like I love men too, but I think we need, as women, I feel like it's definitely my calling to uplift other women.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that. And now with the world where we are, things are starting to change and rebalance. And again, this isn't about like, the feminine completely, smashing the patriarchy, but it's about bringing in some divine balance. And I think in order to do that, we really need to feel empowered and support one another as women.
It's interesting that you talk about balance of the feminine, because just today I was reading a chapter from the heroine's journey, and she talks about the descent. And she said something about, in order to reach fullness, you have to embrace both the intrinsic dark and the joyful light. And I feel like that's something in this situation and season of transition for me. I am really sort of fighting the embrace of the dark, because for most of my life, I have been told, you're a bright light, you're so positive, you're so joyful, be my sweet girl, be my joyful girl, do all these things, be also happy. And I've over-indexed in that. I do think that's truly who I am, but I cannot be that at the exclusion of anything else, because balance is necessary. I can't wait for our upcoming episode on femininity. We thank you, Olivia, so much for joining us on this episode of Biscuits and Sunshine. It's been such a joy to have you.
So special. Thank you again.
Oh my goodness. Thank you guys for having me. Seriously, I've had the best time.
Just as Olivia has supported us from the beginning, so have all of you. So we want to shout out our listeners. We want to shout out Alex at Distant Sport Audio. Everyone who makes this podcast possible, we thank you for your support.
This week, we encourage you to reflect on the wisdom you've collected and lessons learned in life. If you feel so inclined, share them with us. You could do that in a few ways. Email us at heyyall@biscuitsandsunshine.com or leave a comment on Instagram or Spotify. Sharing is caring, and it's how we create community.
If you're listening to us on Spotify, make sure to fill out the survey questions associated with this episode, because we love your feedback. If you love what we're serving up, be sure to subscribe and rate us on your favorite listening platform. Also head over to Instagram and give us a follow at Biscuits and Sunshine, all spelled out. This is Biscuits and Sunshine with Callie and Landra.